Hello, it's Ritchie Knox, and you are tuned into Virtuous Teacher. In this episode, I'll be sharing my biggest secrets on how I became a virtuous teacher. And I think that if you watch this entire video from start to finish, you will have no other choice but to change, and you'll become a virtuous teacher as well. All right, before we talk about these amazing secrets that I have for you, I would like to first say I have some great news. I have good news. I have officially released the new Virtuous Teacher t-shirt. All right, because what is a superhero without their superhero costume? I've released it to the world. All right, virtuous teacher. If you are a virtuous teacher, if you know someone who is a virtuous teacher, or you aspire to be a virtuous teacher, I have created the official uniform. There's two places or two ways you can get it. You can either go to my t-shirt shop, which is bhshirts.com, and get it there. You can also reach out to me directly at merch@virtuousteacher.com. All right. I cannot wait to talk to you. I can't wait to see you in these shirts. They look awesome. All right, but let's get into it. How do you become a virtuous teacher? All right, here it is. The first one is rather obvious. You have to be there for every student. Now, I'm not saying that you don't already do that, but there is a small possibility that when you teach your classes, you pick your favorites. There is a small possibility that you do that. And the first thing that you must get rid of is that mindset. You have to be there to teach every single student. And that includes the students that are troublesome. That includes the students that have behavioral issues. You have to be there for every single one of them. And once you make that change in your mindset and you don't allow yourself to apple pick the best students, you say, you know what, all of these students are important. All of these students are my obligation and responsibility. Once you've made that change in your mind, I believe that is the first step to becoming virtuous. All right. Next, you have to change your mindset to the more challenging the situation, the better. This kind of feeds into the first point. I think that a lot of teachers, they prefer easier situations. They prefer easier classes. But I think to become virtuous, you have to realize you're like a superhero. You know, yes, a superhero would absolutely love it if their town had no crime. Wouldn't that be awesome? But that is not the reality of the situation. So as a superhero, to become a superhero, you have to wake up and realize I'm going to have to deal with challenges today. I'm going to have to fight crime today. And while your job is not fighting crime, that is still the mindset that you want to have. You have to wake up with the mindset that I need challenges to be virtuous. I need to encounter tough classes. I need to encounter tough students. And when I say tough students, I mean students with challenges that might challenge you. I don't think that you can grow from a space of comfort. You have to jump into the most challenging scenarios, and that way you can find out what you're really made out of. So I think a changing of your mindset is incredibly important. Next, you have to meet students where they are. Some students have or have had it bad, and you may be their last hope. Okay, you have to meet students where they are. And what I mean by that is, yes, you'll have your students that come into class. They already know how to sit there and they already know how to listen and they already have all the intangibles. But it goes back to my first point. You have to be there for every student. You have to meet students where they are. So if a student doesn't have the capacity to sit in a class and listen intently for 10 minutes, you have to get them there. You have to go wherever that student is and meet them there and coach them to where they need to be. That is what makes you virtuous. All right. It's not that you have inherited a class that's full of scholars and all you have to do is teach. It's going into the situation, realizing that there are going to be students who have challenges that you have to help meet them where they are and bring them to where they need to be. And that does sound easy as I say it, but we all know as teachers, that's one of the most challenging things about our workday. You know, we encounter those students. You know which ones I'm talking about. I'm going to ask a question and watch what happens here. Think of your most challenging student. That's the one that you have to meet where they are. The one that popped in your head. All right. That's the one you have to meet where they are. And you'll be surprised. If you invest in them, if you show that you care about them, if you show that nothing you do is going to make me run away, I am going to go through all the ups and downs, all the ebbs and flows with you. If you communicate that to that student, whether it be verbally or just with your actions, you will see a change, both in yourself and that student. All right. Next thing, don't forget that they are humans. I think as teachers, we often forget that we're dealing with human beings. I think sometimes we can lose sight of that. We might lose sight of the fact that, these are not just students. They have emotions, they have ups and downs, and we don't know what they deal with when they're not in our presence. We don't know what they deal with when they're not in the school. And there's a reason. I'll tell you, one thing I've learned over the years, there's a reason why these students act a certain way. They're not just there to drive you crazy. It does seem like, you know what, you got out of the bed with the sole purpose of driving me crazy today. No, that's not it. These are human beings, and they have these dynamic challenges that me and you probably have never dealt with. And, we have to be there for them. We have to meet them where they are. We have to understand that they're going to have these issues, and we have to have empathy. We have to have compassion, because you and I, we're success stories. We went through our things, but guess what? There was a teacher there for us. Am I lying when I say that? All right. Think of a teacher that went above and beyond for you, because I can think of several that went above and beyond for me to help me get to where I am today. As a teacher, you and I both know we owe so many people. We are in debt to so many people, but now it's our turn to pull some students out, because they're going to be the future. They're going to be the ones who help the next generation out. And that's what I mean when I say that. Don't forget that they are humans. Don't forget where they are in life. I don't know what grade you teach, but it's extremely easy to forget where they are in life. If you're teaching a kindergarten class, it is not impossible that you might think to yourself, I really wish this kindergarten class was more mature. If you're teaching a high school class, same thing. It's like, why do you still act this way? If you teach a middle school class, same thing. Why are you still wearing your pants that low? Why are you still using profanity? Why are you listening to this type of music? I mean, we've forgotten where we've come from, right? We've all been them at one point or another. Maybe not to the exact specifications, but we've been somewhat of a different version from where we are today, and perhaps a less mature version or a more complicated version of what we are today. So we can't forget where they are in life. Sometimes it's not even that they have behavioral issues or what have you. It's just that they are in a special point in their life. I mean, think about yourself. I think about myself and all of the stages. That's the big word. All of the stages I've gone through to get to where I am today. I would love you to, for you to think that I've always been this version of myself since the start. I wish I could make you believe that, but I know the truth. The truth is I've been terrible at times. I've caused teachers headaches at times. And I know that because I went back to my former high school and I, knocked on the door of one of my teachers. And the minute she saw my face, this is back in the day, she cringed and closed the blinds so she couldn't see my face again, because I drove that woman crazy. Okay. And I wish I can go back and say, hey, Mrs. Culp, I apologize for one, and I'm a different person today. But again, it goes back to my point. Don't forget where they are in life. They might be teenagers. They might be going through puberty. They might be going through emotions. They might be having feelings that they've never had. You have to know you have to consider where they are. All right. Call them scholars even when they aren't yet. This is so important when you're on a quest to be virtuous. First off, call yourself virtuous. Call yourself an amazing teacher, even if you don't quite feel it's true, because words are impactful, right? And the more you hear something, the more you'll start to behave like it. And I use that exact same strategy when it comes to dealing with students, even when they're acting like nutballs and crazy kids and, insert crazy word here. Anytime they're acting like that, it's fine, but you still address them as scholars. I'm going to tell you why, because they're going to remember that. And it's going to be very difficult for them to act like a clown or a class clown or someone crazy when they're being called a scholar, right? Because it's not what you're called, it's what you answer to. And if you call them scholars all the time, eventually they'll have to answer to that. And it's almost like a mind trick. It's almost like psychology. It's amazing. You can say, all right, scholars, please clear your desk. Even if a child is absolutely against the word or the concept of being a scholar, they want to be the class clown, they are owning their position. If they clear their desk when you say scholars clear your desk, they have just admitted to them, they've just initiated the first step of becoming a scholar, because You didn't say, hey, crazy people, please clear your, you said scholars, and then they did it. You see how that works? So if someone were to walk into your space and say, I would like all the dogs to clear your desk, are you going to do it? No, because you don't want to confirm that that's true about yourself. All right. So if someone comes in and say, all the amazing teachers, please clear your desk, and you did it, you are affirming that you are an amazing teacher. So it's a little psychology driven and perhaps a little confusing, but I think I can simplify by stating that calling them scholars at every opportunity that you have is a great start to changing them. Okay. And it's the first step to initiating some of the virtuous teacher techniques that I'm talking about in this video. All right. Next, use the words ma'am, sir, please, and thank you. All right. There is something about being respectful. There's something about being kind, especially to younger people. They consider that to be a very genuine thing. And when you are calling, I'm not sure of the demographic that you have, but if you're calling a 9-year-old, ma'am, sir, and you're saying thank you, please, you know what they're going to do in reverse? They're going to respect you. They're going to probably also call you ma'am, sir, thank you. They're going to look at you differently than those teachers who don't utilize those type of words. They're going to look at you differently from those teachers who don't say thank you or please. We've all learned these things as kids, and some of you already do these things, so kudos to you. But if you don't do them, if you don't call your students ma'am, sir, if you don't say thank you and please, think about that. All right. Don't you want them to do that to you? Don't you want them to show that respect to you? Well, guess what? One of the first ways to get respect is to give it. And you are a better person for giving it when it's not being given to you. Sometimes you have to be the person who makes the first move. Sometimes. And if that's the case, what better move can you make than moving with respect? That's a question. All right. Next, meet their rebellion with courage. You know why I say that? Because there are some students that are a little scary. They don't know that, but as teachers, we do, right? I'm one of the strongest teachers I've ever encountered. And even I sometimes get the shivers of having to contend with some of these behaviors out here, especially as the world continues to evolve. It's like, man, I know I got through some of the most difficult students, over the last 12 or 13 years, but it's something about this child that's a little different. But that's exactly what you need to remember. You have been in the game for a while. You have conquered some of the most difficult behaviors. So what's different about this new class or this new school year? The answer is not much. So sometimes you have to call back on your achievements in dealing with challenging students to remind you of how virtuous and how great you are. Sometimes you have to do that. So meet their rebellion with courage. When a student comes in and they had bad intentions, meet them with courage. Don't be afraid of any student or any behavior. Stand on your experience. Okay. And here's why you do that. You may be the only one who cares enough to challenge them. You know what changes bad behavior? Challenge. And no one ever wants to talk about it. Nobody ever says it. When you are dealing with a rebellious student, if you want to change them, I'm not saying if you want to just coax them through and pass them on to the next grade level. No, you can do that. But then perhaps you wouldn't be considered virtuous. A virtuous teacher is someone who can change people for the better. All right. And if you want to be that, guess what? You're going to have to meet that rebellion with challenge. And I'm not saying to yell and push back and agitate. I'm saying to challenge them to be better. That's how you meet that. That's how you meet rebellion. All right. You challenge a student to use better language. You challenge a student to take out paper to take notes. You challenge a student to take their legs and feet off of somebody else's chair or off the chair that's right next to them. You challenge them to follow the directions. You challenge them to remove the hoodie if that is the standard in your school. You challenge them. And yes, they're going to meet your challenge with rebellion. That's the entire point of being their age, depending on your demographic. But I'm telling you, the more you challenge them, the more you raise the expectations for them, that is the ingredients for change. That is the ingredients for positive change. I'll use myself as an example. The reason I can attest to this is because of my own experiences where I was in my rebellious stage. And the reason I was able to get from rebellion to where I am today is because someone challenged me. I won't go into details, but this person constantly challenged me. They continued to face me, and they didn't run from my rebellion. They weren't afraid of what I posed as a challenge. They were not afraid. And because they were not afraid, I realized I had to deal with this person. I had to deal with their expectations. And they never put their hands on me. They rarely ever said anything that was off-putting, but they did challenge me, and it was very tough. And through that challenge, through that pressure, I believe that I've become a diamond, because that's what it takes to create a diamond, right? Now, my last point, advise them as if advising yourself at their age. Advise them as if advising yourself at their age. If you deal with 13-year-olds, when you talk to them, when you're giving them advice, imagine giving yourself advice at that age. Imagine how you would receive that advice. I'll give you an easy example. I have a young man in my class right now. He has to be 13 or 14 years old. He's a challenge. He comes in, puts his headphones on. He wants to go to the bathroom. I say no, because he just came into class late. He'll walk out, right? And I've challenged that by contacting his parents several times, by writing referrals. So I'm challenging the behavior. The challenge is there. But I realize that that is not the only way that I would like to attack these behaviors. I want to challenge the behavior the formal way, parent calls. I want to challenge it with referrals, et cetera, et cetera. But I also want to help the person, because if I can help the person, these behaviors stop anyway. And one day he comes into the classroom late. I didn't yell at him, because I don't think that that was going to be the proper approach. I marked him tardy, as I was supposed to. And then, because he had missed the quiz, I said, "Hey, sir, here's your quiz. I would like you to go to the back and take the quiz." So I get right back to my class. I look back to see if he's taking the quiz, and he is not. He's on his cell phone. So I go to the back and I challenge the behavior, right? I said, "Sir, you cannot take a quiz with a cell phone open. You can't do that." He gives me this weird look, and he kind of puts the phone in his pocket. He goes back to taking the quiz. I go back to teaching my class. I look back 3 minutes later. He's right back on the phone. I'm not going to back down. If you can't understand it, you can't see it. I go back. I say, "Sir, again, you cannot use a cell phone while you're taking the quiz. Now, if you don't want to take the quiz, that's fine. Let me know. I'll go ahead and take the quiz, throw it in the trash. You can go back on your cell phone. I'm not going to, He says, he puts the phone back in his pocket. He goes back to taking the quiz. So at this point, I'm starting to calculate my moves and my defense and my offense and how I'm going to approach the situation, because I'm already anticipating that he's going to get back on the phone by this point. So I look back. 3 minutes later, he's back on the phone with the test in front of him. So I go to the back. I said, "Sir, may I offer you some advice?" I said, "I know that you're not always going to be in this rebellious stage. I realize that this is a stage. And one day, you're going to grow up out of this stage, and you're going to become an amazing leader. You're going to be an amazing person. You're going to teach. You're going to help people. I understand that now, even though that may not be the case at this very moment." I said, "But may I offer you a little advice? You want to do one thing at a time." I said, "Finish your quiz, put the phone away. And then once you finish your quiz, I'll take your quiz. And I don't care how much you use your cell phone. But my advice to you, sir, just do one thing at a time." He looked at me. He said, okay. So what happened was, I gave him encouragement by way of saying, "Yes, you're in a stage right now. I've been in the headphone stage, listen to my little hip hop music. I've been there." So I started with that to show that I can relate. Look, I said, "Sir, you're going to grow out of this stage at some point." So, and then also I gave him positive reinforcement. Someday you're going to be an amazing person, an amazing leader. And I understand that this is a phase. This is just a stage that you're in. This is not going to be who you are forever. I already understand that. Then I offered him advice. "But may I offer you some advice? Do one thing at a time." And it makes sense when you think about it. Right now, you're trying to take a test while also on the phone. This is why you're not successfully doing either thing. Do one thing at a time. Then I gave him directions on how to actually do it. Take your quiz, put the phone away. And then once you finish the quiz, because you're doing one thing at a time, once you finish the quiz, I'll take the quiz and you can go ahead and use your cell phone. So I gave him a pathway, a map to actually get through this conflict that me and him is having. I gave him a map to get through it. Hey, so in his brain, he has to say, "Wow, he just came to me in a different way. He just came to me very real. he just pumped some life into me. He just said that he sees me being successful. I never even saw myself as that. And then he said, if I do one thing at a time, I'll be more successful. I want to be successful. Even though I'm in this stage, I want to be successful. And he gave me a pathway. If I do my quiz, I can use my phone. But I do have to put the phone away. He's made that very clear. So I look back and he's not on the phone for the first time. And I go back and I said, did you finish your quiz? He's like, he just shook his head. You got to keep his cool demeanor, right? So I take the quiz. I look at it. He's answered every question. I said, thank you, sir. Went back to teaching. And the whole class was peaceful. And he did not walk out. The prior class, he came in, walked out. He came in, walked out. He walked out 2 times in one class, the prior class. And of course, I challenged that behavior with phone call and referral. So in this class, we did have a little exchange in terms of his cell phone device and the quiz. But the way I approached it, got me 2 wins that class. The first win was I was able to communicate with him in a way that wasn't combative. Another win was getting him to put the phone away to take his quiz like I needed him to. And maybe it's 3 wins. The third win is him not walking out before the bell rang. And I said, you know what? From here, now we continue to do the work. I can't tell you if the next class he's going to go back or go forward. But what I can tell you is I've already succeeded in reaching him in a way that was effective. And now it's up to me to build on that relationship and say, you know what? Hey, how you doing today? You all right? You good? And just start to build that, because I have to meet him where he is. And once I meet him where he is, I can then guide him out of where he is, because I can see him as being a extremely impactful leader. But that's not where he is right now. So I got to get him there. That's my job as a teacher, right? That's our job as teachers. All right, folks. I hope that was informative. And if so, you know what to do. Like, subscribe, comment, all that cool stuff. Don't forget to check out the merch. And I certainly appreciate you taking a few moments with me. I'll see you on the next one. Peace.